What's up, everybody? We are back with another WNBA update. And on today's edition of the show, we are talking those red freaking hot Las Vegas Aces. Plus, what's the update on Caitlin Clark's latest injury, some of the Rookie of the Year conversation, and a snapshot of the playoff picture. All of that plus so much more on today's edition of your WNBA update. But before we tip off the first quarter of today's episode, we start how we always do with the Fast Five. But this week, we're doing things a little bit differently. Normally, we do the Fast Five stories that you may have missed this past week. But this week, we have had so many historic performances and statement nights, so that's how we start. The Fast Five nights and performances that you may have missed this past week in the WNBA. And we start with, Paige freaking Bueckers, 44 points, a WNBA rookie record, and tied for the 10th most all time in the history of the W. We're talking 10th most of all time from a rookie. Paige freaking Bueckers. She only had 16. I say only. Take that with a grain of salt. But out of her 44, only 16 of those came in the first half, and she scored 28 points in 15 game minutes in the second half, which makes it somehow even more impressive, an already impressive night. I mean, she shot 81% from the field, including 4 for 4 from 3 and 6 for 6 from the free throw line. So Candace Parker originally set the rookie scoring record with 40 points back in 2008. So very, very good company for Paige Bueckers to be in. We'll move on to number 2, A'ja Wilson against the Dream. 32 points, 12 rebounds, 5 blocks. And oh yeah, by the way, she followed that up in her game against Washington, 36 points and 13 rebounds. A dominant performance. And A'ja Wilson, of course, A'ja Wilson things, but even more so as of late, she has been so dominant and so consistently dominant, especially defensively. This Aces team has been incredibly dominant as of late. 11 straight wins for Vegas. We'll get more into that a little bit later on in the show, but we move on to number 3. Nneka Ogwumike dropped 30 points, including a career-high three-pointers, and added 6 assists in a very much-needed but close-fought 84-82 win over Washington. And also, if you watched that game, you saw how easy Nneka made that look. I mean, my goodness, 30 points, no problem for her. At least that's what it looked like. Moving on to number 4, a very much anticipated return. Fee is back. Napheesa Collier has missed 7 games with a sprained ankle, and she made her return on Sunday night against the Fever and wasted absolutely 0 time getting reacclimated. How's a 32.9 rebound night for your first game back after missing 7 with an ankle injury? She was 11 of 19 from the field in a game where the Lynx beat the Fever 97-84. Now, granted, that's a very depleted Fever roster, but still a massive game for Napheesa Collier. And I know Lynx fans are feeling much more confident about this team as it's getting hot and getting Fee back at the perfect time. Let's wrap it up with our 5th and final massive performance. And maybe it wasn't necessarily an on-court performance more than it was a massive accolade for the league. The W is our 5th and final performance of our Fast Five. As of August 20th of this year, the league has set an all-time attendance record with more than 2.5 million fans attending games in person so far this season. So the previous record was set in 2002, which frankly was shocking and surprising to me that it has been 23 years since that attendance record was set. But in 2002, with 16 teams across 256 games, that was the original record. This record, though, only 13 teams and only 226 games. So congratulations to the league, congratulations to the players, congratulations to all of the growth that has surrounded this league, because it's showing up on ticket sales, it's showing up in viewership on TV, and it's showing up in attendance. Again, 2.5 million fans have attended games so far this season, a record in the WNBA. That was the Fast Five performances that you may have missed this past week in the WNBA, but now it's game time. Let's transition into our first quarter. She is Cassandra Negley. I am Caroline Fenton. And Cass, there is only one place to start, and it is those red hot Vegas Aces. They literally cannot lose. They can't. They cannot lose, or at least they haven't lost in their last 11 games. Cass, it was not that long ago where we were talking about, like, what's wrong with the Aces? Why are they broken? How long is Becky Hammon's leash? Like, is Asia Wilson going to ask for a trade? Like, it was panic time in Vegas not that long ago. Here we are. They've clinched a postseason berth after taking down Chicago on Monday night. How did we get here? What changed?
They seem to hit rock bottom with that 53-point loss to Minnesota 11 games ago because they've won ever since. They're absolutely clicking. One player to highlight who we've highlighted before is Napheesa Smith. They made a trade for her far before the trade deadline. They inserted her into the starting lineup, moved Kia Stokes out of it, even though Kia Stokes had won championships with them. It just wasn't working. She wasn't giving enough offense. We have a story this week about Napheesa Smith really kind of coming into her own with the help of Asia Wilson. And there's a preseason game where the Aces are playing the Wings, and Asia actually gives Napheesa some tips, and that kind of spearheads this season for them. But Napheesa Smith is a player who was drafted number 2 overall in 2022 behind Ryan Howard. She goes to an Indiana Fever franchise, kind of in disarray still at the time. She has 2 coaches her rookie year, an incredibly young team, a new coach her second year. That's Aaliyah Boston's first year. Then Caitlin Clark comes in, and the offense kind of changes a little bit. It was never a Napheesa Smith problem per se. It was just she didn't fit everything going on there. The Wings didn't really know how to utilize her. She goes to Las Vegas, and they can utilize her to really kind of the top of her abilities. And I think the other big thing is when I talked with her a few days after the trade in June, I think, or maybe early July, she had just joined the Aces, and I asked her, how do you view this team? Like, what needs to happen for this team to start winning? She said, we just haven't put 4 quarters together yet. We haven't put every quarter together. We have these spurts of greatness, but it's not all there. And she said, teams are gunning for us just because the name across our chest, which is absolutely true. I think what we've seen in the last 11 games is we're seeing full quarters being put together. And they're also able to win some of these closer games that, as Chelsea Gray said, they couldn't earlier in the season.
And they're starting to put 4 quarters together at the perfect time. You know, we just talked about, everything that we thought could have gone wrong for the Vegas Aces just a couple of months ago. Well, August and September is when that matters, and they're doing it at the right time. I also think it's not just putting 4 quarters together, because obviously that's been a massive difference for them. It's matching their elite defense, which the Aces are always going to be, solid to elite defensively. Of course, Asia Wilson is one of the best defensive players in the WNBA, but it's also matching that with offense. You bring up Napheesa Smith. Jackie Young has been so consistent offensively. I mean, she's been shooting better from beyond the 3-point line over the last couple of weeks than she has really all season long. And you get contribution from Kirsten Bell as well, Chelsea Gray. So this team, it feels like all things are starting to click offensively. They're still going to play really good defense. They're still going to play small ball. Like, that is at its core the Aces' identity, but they're matching it with offense.
Yeah, and we're seeing more solid kind of point guard contributions from Chelsea Gray. She was injured last season to start the season. Kind of had a slow start this season, which also can be attributed to just new faces in this lineup. Jewel Lloyd started the season with them, and even though they've played with her on the Olympic team, Olympics are a totally different beast. So for Gray to start really putting in these double-digit games, double-digit assists against Dallas and Atlanta, which we know from her, and then just the clutch shot making. I thought it was such an interesting point that was made on the broadcast that Tyler Marsh, who was the assistant with the Aces when they won 2 championships, now with the Sky, he had said, we need to contain Asia Wilson for 3 quarters. But in the 4th quarter, we really need to focus on Chelsea Gray because she is their clutch performer. She hits all of these clutch baskets. She did again against Chicago, but that's certainly part of the recipe for them.
100%. And I mean, beating Chicago, look, they just took down the reigning champion, New York Liberty. And it was Candace Parker's jersey retirement night. I mean, all of a sudden, all these, the Sky could finally believe that they could beat some of the contenders. So, obviously, you avoid disaster there, losing to the Chicago Sky. But I also think this Aces team, and it's more of a holistic kind of takeaway that I've taken from it, just watching this team. And I don't know if this is me putting bias on a team that's now won 11 straight, or if this is actually something that has kind of fundamentally changed. I feel like they're just having so much fun. Like, I have fun watching them. I catch myself with a smile on my face watching them because it feels like they're playing so much lighter. Whereas maybe at the beginning of the season, the pressure started to mount up and you could sense it. That they felt this overwhelming pressure to finally get wins on the board, to piece four quarters together, to put everything together. And then when it didn't happen, that pressure just mounted and mounted and mounted. And now you're seeing an Aces team just play with so much freedom in a way, and that can be so incredibly contagious.
Yeah, Asia Wilson has talked about that a little bit, I think, over the past couple of years, just feeling this pressure, wanting to be the best for her teammates. It's a lot when you are in the midst of a dynasty and wanting to live up to that and not let it slip. They could be the number 2 seed in the playoffs, which is absolutely wild, and I think really speaks to how tough this league is, how much things can change in a league like this all of the time. That game that they have coming up against Atlanta, I think, will be the determiner in who is the number 2 seed, because it's Las Vegas and Atlanta sitting right there. New York fell to 5th last week. So it's going to be a very close, possibly one of the closest finishes we've ever seen.
That race for second place just kind of feels like everything. And even though New York falls to 5th, and I still think they have an opportunity to be that second place team. Now they get Breanna Stewart back. We'll touch on that more in just a minute, just what that means getting Stewie back in the rotation. But we're talking 2 through 5 has a legitimate shot for that race for second place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. New York, Las Vegas, Atlanta, Phoenix, separated by, I think, 2 games the other night, like dropped to a game and a half. I did take a look at the rest of their schedule. I think it's going to be an uphill battle for New York to kind of claw in there. But as we've seen for the past week, like every single game is going to matter, and you cannot lose games to, for example, Chicago.
Yeah, that was a brutal one for the Liberty to take. Now we'll get into Breanna Stewart, her return that we saw on Monday night. But coming up next in our second quarter, Breanna Stewart's back from injury. Napheesa Collier back from injury. But one massive superstar that is not yet back, at least in gameplay from injury quite yet, is Caitlin Clark. Now we know she has missed the last 15 games. She's been dealing with a groin injury, and late last week we learned that she was dealing with an ankle injury that she suffered in training and in practice as she was kind of easing her way back into it. The Fever, I mean, they're injury bitten. Like, they have just been absolutely decimated to injury. And now in the last 8 games, they're only 2-6, which unfortunately isn't a surprise, just with the amount of depth and just the amount of injuries that they have suffered, and the amount of depth that they have lost over the last couple of weeks. And the Fever did announce that Caitlin will be out again on Tuesday night for the Fever's matchup against Seattle. She has, though, come back to participating in shoot-around. She was in non-contact drills on Sunday. What is your major takeaway from all of this? She's not playing on Tuesday. She's been back into non-contact. Is there a possibility? And if so, what is the probability that we see Caitlin Clark in a Fever uniform?
I think this remains so hard because clearly there's stuff going on that they're doing a really, really tight job of keeping quiet. But looking down their schedule, you know, you talked about the Storm game. They then have 6 more games over 2 weeks. Time is running out. I don't think it's highly probable at this point that we see too much of her. If I'm the one analyzing the standings and what's realistic for them, I think without a Caitlin Clark return, I don't know that they make the playoffs at all. And then you have to keep in mind that right now they're sitting at 8th. And granted, they're only a half game out of 6th place Seattle. They're tied with Golden State. Like, those standings are similarly tough. Los Angeles is, you know, a game behind. But if they're the 8th seed, they have to play Minnesota.
Oh,
I think there's been tight lips about Caitlin Clark, which is understandable. Happens with a lot of players with injury. But certainly for opposing coaches or us sitting here, it's very hard to tell if she will be back, how long a ramp up takes if she is healthy. It's just been a brutal season for Atlanta or for Indiana.
Brutal. In a year that they had all of the expectations in the world. In a year where fans had every right to talk about a championship.
Yeah.
So I hate that for the Fever. I hate that for the Fever fans. It's just unfortunate, and it's an unfortunate side of this sport that injuries happen. But the way that I kind of view it, Cass, is everything for the Fever right now is just house money. You know, if you find a way to sneak into the playoffs, and ESPN just reported that the Fever do have an 88% chance of making the playoffs per their own, you know, formulas and numbers and all of those great things. 88% chance of making the playoffs. Let's say the Fever do get into the playoffs and they just get absolutely waxed by the Lynx in the first round of the playoffs. Okay. You know, you made the playoffs, you had a postseason run. You can say you made the postseason, but I don't see the point in rushing Caitlin Clark back, because let's say if you do rush Caitlin Clark back, you still have no Arian McDonald, you still have no Sophie Cunningham, you still have no Sydney Colson. All three are out, you know, definitively for the remainder of the season. So yes, you get back one of the most electrifying players in the sport in Caitlin Clark, 100%. I'm not going to act like that doesn't mean nothing, but what does that really do for you? You win one more game than you were initially expected to win in the playoffs. Maybe you make things a little bit more interesting against the Minnesota Lynx. But even with Caitlin Clark, I don't think the Fever are nearly strong enough. Even if it's it very well could be a 75-80% Caitlin Clark. Again, they've been very tight-lipped. We don't know where she is at in her recovery. So if you're getting, let's say, an at best 75% Caitlin Clark, and of course that's me just making massive assumptions, you're going to be strong enough to beat the Lynx? I don't think so. So at this point, you're just playing with house money, play out the remainder of the season, see how many games you can win, see how interesting you can make things, and focus on next season and everybody else getting back 100%.
The interesting thing about the rest of their schedule, whether Caitlin Clark is back or not, is they finish the season 2 days before it ends, so on September 9th.
Yeah.
That gives them quite a little bit of a buffer before the first day of the postseason that Sunday. So most teams are playing Thursday, I think it is. They play again Sunday. They're going to finish on Tuesday. That's going to be a huge help if you have Caitlin back. The other thing is, if they do make the playoffs, I think this is notable, they automatically have a home game in the playoffs. And this was the team, this rule was not changed for them. But they kind of put it in the spotlight when last year with Caitlin Clark, with sold out crowds, an incredible attendance that we hadn't seen before in Indiana, they reach the playoffs, but they don't get to host any playoff game. So if they reach the playoffs, they will host that second game of the playoffs, which I think is notable. And I also think you've kind of heard it before. Certainly that's an uphill battle to try and knock off Minnesota. But it's tough to come into a place like Indiana and play where they are truly selling out those games.
Can the Fever hold on? Without Caitlin, let's just say Caitlin, let's say we don't see her. And again, we don't know. We don't know if there's a timetable for her return. She has come back to shoot around. That's a far cry from actually coming back to gameplay. Obviously, no Arian McDonald, no Sophie Cunningham, no Sydney Colson. Can they hold on?
Yeah. I think they can hold on to the playoffs. I mean, I kind of like, very kind of like guessed at these team standings down the stretch. So I kind of have them finishing around 23, 27. If they go 4-3 the rest of the way, that's kind of, I don't know, maybe Caitlin comes back, maybe not, I don't know. And that would put them in playoff contention. Like, they have the advantage. I think the thing about, if you're looking at like who can overtake them, I think Washington is probably completely out of the picture. They had those 4 consecutive losses, including 2 to Connecticut, which again, like, you can't have that happen if you're trying to make the playoffs this time of year.
Right.
Then you look at Los Angeles, they have 9 games left to play. That is the most of anyone. So they can make up ground in this race. Both teams, you know, have kind of middle of the road schedules they're facing. I think it's absolutely doable.
Yeah.
I just don't, I think it's like a fun will they, won't they? I don't think either one is like a crazy answer.
And I think obviously making the playoffs, obviously you're going to take it, and not making the playoffs, like, it's okay. It is understandable. And there are several reasons why that would explain why the Fever didn't make the playoffs. And it's not just, you didn't make the playoffs in a year that everybody expected you to. I mean, there's obviously way more layers to this story, but we will continue to keep an eye on Caitlin Clark and her health and her availability. But let's hit some halftime first. Speaking of Caitlin Clark, did you see this, Cass, that Nike released Caitlin Clark's logo early on Monday morning? Thoughts? A lot of people are very mad. I don't hate it. I don't know why everybody is hating on it, and everybody's calling it trash, and everybody is saying, well, they could have done so much more with it. I don't hate it. It's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I don't hate it.
Logos are logos. Like, I like the rollout. I think Nike's video is very cool. There are already banners up in Indianapolis, which I think is major. It's a logo.
It's a logo. It's not revolutionary. It's not changing the logo game. I don't know if I expected it to change the logo game. It's 2 C's. Those are her initials. It's what it is. The video was cooler than the logo itself, though. I will give you that. I probably am gonna order a shirt. So there you go. That's that. That's our halftime. Moving into third quarter. Breanna Stewart is back. She's missed the past month, almost exactly. Her last game with the New York Liberty was July 26th. She's missed the last month with a bone bruise in her right knee, and the Liberty have struggled without her. Obviously, not having Breanna Stewart's production paired with the Liberty's strength of schedule over the last month, it's been brutal. And they have been 5-8 over the last month, but she returned on Monday night in an 81-79 win over Connecticut. A win is a win, and you will take it. She played 21 minutes. She was on kind of a 20-minute pitch count that Sandy Brondello reported after the game. She had 19 points, 5 rebounds, solid return for Stewie. She said that she felt good. It was nice being out there. She actually begged and pleaded to be able to be out there longer. Sandy Brondello said, whoa, put it in reverse, Terry. Hold on. Like, we'll just leave you where you're at and we'll evaluate from there. But Breanna Stewart is back. What does she bring back for this Liberty team? Because it's been a little bleak in New York.
Her defense is probably underrated. Her importance to the team, she's not notching league-leading blocks and she's not notching league-leading steals, but clearly she's a linchpin there. Their defensive rating rose more than 10 points in her absence. And as you said, like, the difficulty of this schedule is part of that. They're playing better teams. But I think that puts into context what she means there. The other important thing, and we saw this immediately, was she took 13 free throws in that win against Connecticut. She's very, very good at drawing contact, getting in the lane, going up to the rim. She ranks second at 6.3 attempts per game. That's to A'ja Wilson. She's first at 7.6. And so on average, more than half of each of their points are at the free throw line. That's huge for New York. Sabrina is second on the team at 4.5 attempts per game to Stewie's 6.3. Mm-hmm. And for Stewie, it was in the 6th time this season she's taken double-digit free throw attempts, which is far more than anyone else on the team. And you can't underestimate how important that is. I also think she has an ability to calm the team down and make these plays when they need to be made. And New York was probably missing that in some ways, having relied on Stewie for that for so long.
And just looking at, just the last couple of games, I was just kind of doing some mental math. 2 of their last 5 losses were by 6 points. So if you just take Breanna Stewart's averages, so you add Breanna Stewart back in there, put her average in of about 6 to 6.5 points, you can say that New York wins at least 2, if not 3, of those last 5 games that they've lost. And that's just in free throws alone, not contributing to her defense and contributing to the rest of the offense that she would be able to produce. So I think you can't overstate the impact of Breanna Stewart returning to this Liberty team. It's also still a gauntlet that they have next, that they have coming up with the rest of their schedule. I would at least feel more confident, or I do feel at least more confident in New York's ability to get through this grind with a Breanna Stewart, especially a Breanna Stewart that feels good coming back from injury. It wasn't like, oof, it was 20 minutes, but man, oh man, it felt like longer than that. But it does feel like finally there's some reprieve, not just in the schedule, but having Breanna Stewart's contributions back.
Having her back, and Natasha Cloud missed that Connecticut game with an illness, so bringing Natasha Cloud back, Mira Sabally when she's back, like all of these players just give Sandy Brondello versatility in what she wants to do. Like she was asked before the Connecticut game, are you going to go with a big lineup? So that's Emma Mieseman, Jonquil Jones, Breanna Stewart, Leonie Fevich, who is like pretty tall. I'm not looking at her height right now. And Sabrina. And Sandy said, yeah. Absolutely. I love the big lineup. I just haven't been able to do it because my forwards are absolutely depleted. So she can go big. She can employ different forwards. The bench is going to be stronger. And I think also just continuity between all of these players. And we've talked about it before, and it's not an excuse, but this team was 9-0 with all of their starters available. And since that time, they have not had all of their starters available. And that's not even including Emma Mieseman coming back in. I think they really need to make up ground and get that fourth playoff seed rather than sitting in fifth. But at the same time, these last 5-6 games are an opportunity for them to grow together on the court so that they can play well in the playoffs. Because the one thing I thought yesterday, you said a win's a win no matter what. That's what New York did all last year, too, it felt like.
Yeah.
Like, these teams that shouldn't be beating New York are, like, staying in games with New York. And I'm just sitting there, like, if I'm a Liberty fan, I'm looking at my watch, and my stress number is probably out of the roof.
And sometimes that's part of putting together a playoff run, a championship run. Like, it's not always pretty, but it can be beautiful. Like 81-79 over Connecticut, that's not pretty, but it is beautiful, you know, because it gives you at least, I feel like this fan base should feel more encouraged, more empowered, more optimistic than they have over the last week to 2 weeks. That sometimes you just have to win these grinded out, gritty, gross, why is this game so close? What the heck is going on kind of games? Like you're going to have plenty of those, whether it's on the road to the playoffs or throughout the playoffs. It's find a way to win no matter what. Take the dub as you get them and move on for the next one.
I was going to say, weren't you panicked last week?
I didn't say I was panicked. I said that if I was a Liberty fan, like my hand would be like hovering over the panic button.
Okay.
Like it's not slamming down on it yet, but it's like,
You were
okay,
ready.
it's out. I dusted it off. It's on my desk and my hand is about to.
That's fair.
But I just have a tendency to panic. Everything's fine though. Everything always turns out okay. Crazy how that works. Okay, let's move on to our fourth and final quarter. We talked about some of our way too early awards thoughts, awards predictions. Of course, you know, MVP, Coach of the Year, Front Office of the Year, and Rookie of the Year was in that conversation, which I think is a fascinating conversation to have because these rookies are ballin'. And we've been, I think, spoiled over the past couple of years with instant impact, superstar caliber rookies. Obviously, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese last year, Paige Bueckers this year. We talked about Sonia Citron and we talked about Kiki Ariafin being in this Rookie of the Year conversation, right? It's fair to talk about that because Kiki Ariafin and Sonia Citron have been pivotal for Washington this season. But then I want to say it was that night or maybe the next night when Paige Bueckers dropped 44. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, y'all were talking about Kiki and Sonia for the Rookie of the Year conversation. No, let me just set a new rookie record in WNBA scoring. But Cass, how should we be looking at the Rookie of the Year conversation? Should we change how we view the Rookie of the Year conversation just based off of rookie production and rookie contribution and how much that has, you know, kind of ramped up in recent years versus, you know, all time?
I think to talk about changing it, we have to look back at how it was, right? And so the last couple of years, there's been like a runaway winner, you know, or like two players one is getting a vote or two from these 60 voters. So I think the first thing is I do think there are more players playing quality minutes, like rookies playing quality minutes, who deserve to be in the conversation, right? Because there is so much more talent coming into the league. And it's not just talent from the college ranks. If you were a first-time player in the WNBA, you are considered a rookie. And we've had this conversation over the past couple of years, these European players who are maybe 27, 28, or even younger, but they've played on clubs overseas, coming to the WNBA, balling out. They are rookies. The other thing is there's just more voters than there have been since the early 2000s in the league. And I think that opens up a conversation about what exactly does Rookie of the Year look like for everyone? Is it about, are you averaging the most points? Is it about your efficiency in those points? Is it about, well, your usage rate is really high? I just think there's so much talent in the game that the conversation of Rookie of the Year just becomes like more nuanced, like other leagues, right? There's more opportunities. There were a few stats that I looked up. There are 6 rookies this year who rank in the top 75 of all-time rookies in minutes average. These stats are by across the timeline. They go back to 2000. I omitted the first couple of years to take care of any allocation drafts. 2024, 4 players in the top 50. And then you go to 2023, and there were only 2 kind of in that range. That was the year Leah Boston was voted unanimously. And there's just no other year in that data where there are this many players, this many rookies playing this many minutes.
And we're talking 3 years. It just kind of went from out of nowhere to now all of a sudden, like, rookies are a massive part of this game.
Paige is averaging about 33 minutes a game, which is 7th.
Damn.
Tamika Catchings in 2002 was averaging 36 minutes per game. Caitlin Clark is actually second at 35, and Sue Bird is third at 35. And then Stewie, Lauren Jackson, Odyssey Sims, actually, in 2014.
Interesting.
So this year, Sonia is 19th in minutes played. You then have to go to 60th for Kiki. She's at about 26. Layla Lacan, 64th, Janelle Saloon, and Sanaya Rivers. Yep.
Fascinating. Right. So it's not new that rookies are contributing. It's just new that we have so many rookies contributing. Like the years of Candace Parker and Sue Bird in their rookie years, like those I felt like were outliers, right? Like those were statistical anomalies, I guess. That might sound like a dramatic term, but I'll use it anyways. Whereas now it's just kind of expected.
Well, 2002 actually, so Sue Bird's year was Catchings, who I believe won Rookie of the Year. That's a great example, actually. Catchings was first, Sue Bird was third, Swin Cash was 8th, and Tamika Williams was 14th. So 2002, you're looking at quite a few rookies who played a lot. And that, to my knowledge, was a really close race, or at least like an interesting conversation about rookies contributing.
Fair to say this is the closest, most reminiscent year for rookies since then? Because last year, I mean, you still had the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark kind of conversation of rookies dominating, but it still, once it came to Rookie of the Year conversation, it was Caitlin. Throughout the season, yes, there was fair conversation to be had of, is Angel edging Caitlin out? But toward the end of the season, it felt pretty obvious that Caitlin was going to be your Rookie of the Year. Maybe not unanimously, but I think we all felt pretty confident that was going to be the case. We have a fascinating conversation to be had, and I think it just makes me feel very lucky that the league is in such a great place. It's in such great hands that we have so many young players to be really excited about, whether they are rookies of the year or not. I mean, this league and these young players, whether it's rookies, second, third year players, or players that are coming up in the W over the next couple of years, like this league is in very good hands, and it is very fun to watch. Some more fun things to watch that we have coming up this upcoming week in the WNBA. We've got Washington at New York on Thursday at 7 o'clock. We've also got Seattle at Minnesota as well. These are all going to be, jockeying for placement in the top 4 to 5 teams. I would say 2 through 5 in the WNBA, that race for second place. So New York's race for second place, Seattle, all going to be massive and super, and games with big time implications coming up over the next couple of days. And then wrapping up the weekend, we've got New York at Phoenix. That's a huge one, Cass.
Yeah, that's going to go a long way in determining that top 4, top 5.
Yeah, we've got some big time games coming up. We're coming down to the wire. We're coming down to the nitty gritty in the WNBA regular season. And we are back next week giving our full reaction to all the game action, some races that might be closing out, that race for second place, rookie of the year race, whatever it might be. We will be back next week with a full breakdown of everything that you may have missed in the WNBA. So keep it right here with Yahoo Sports. For Cassandra Negley, I am Caroline Fenton. We'll see you next week.